Hey everybody, Danielle Hargenrader here, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Today I am beyond excited to bring you what quite possibly may be the person that I've interviewed who's had type 1 diabetes for the longest time, which I am just thrilled about. So I'm going to read you her bio and then we're going to get right into her story. So Judith Ball has had type 1 diabetes since 1941, and in case you didn't know the math, which we both did, that's 75 years and she's still going strong. She has a BA in education. She was an elementary school teacher. She ran her own preschool for 8 years. She's heavily involved in volunteer work, and she is happily married for 54 years, lives in New York, and has 2 sons and 5 grandchildren. So Judith, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. How are you?
I am just fine, and thank you for asking me to do this.
Oh, no, my pleasure. So as we usually do here on Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator, we would love to know about you and what your story is. So why don't you let us know a little bit about your story of diagnosis, which I'm sure is a bit different than many of us have dealt with, and the path that you've traveled from then till now.
Well, mine started in the year 1941, as you have said. I had a sore which wasn't healing, so my mother took me to the family doctor. And he, at that time, I believe they did blood tests right in the office, and he checked it out. My urine was very heavy with glucose, or with sugar, and the blood sugar was very high. So, and I was used to calling it blood sugar till the recent years of blood glucose.
I still call it blood sugar.
So anyway, he right away diagnosed diabetes and told my parents, and I was 2 years old. And he told my parents he would not be able to take care of me at the time. So he sent us into Rochester, New York, which was about a 25-mile drive for us, and to a doctor he knew was taking care of diabetics. And Dr. Fluke took care of me for a few months, and then he was drafted into World War II, which makes me feel old at this point. And then he turned me over to his cousin, John R. Williams Sr., who was also involved with taking care of diabetics. And Dr. Williams knew Dr. Banting and his lab work in Canada.
Wow.
And there is a written story, which is true, that Dr. Williams had a night porter on a train come bring insulin illegally into the United States from Banting's lab to Rochester, New York train station, and Dr. Williams would go over and pick it up, and he was trying it out in Rochester.
That is...
I'm not sure what year he started doing that, but that's a true story. And so anyway, Dr. Williams became my doctor, so I was fortunate all through my years of diabetes to be going with doctors who knew something about it and knew how to at least try things. So I was put on a, don't eat the sweet stuff diet, and insulin, which was beef and pork back then in those days. And I was on 2 shots a day. And I have records from Dr. Williams' office that are dated 1942 that tell my weight. I was 33 pounds, and I was born in 38. So I don't know now if 33 was a good weight at that time or not. But, and then he would write up, my mother would take in a 24-hour urine collection sample, and he would test that, and they would do a blood draw, and they would combine that, and then we'd get a little paragraph coming back to us in a few days, and he would talk with us. Anyway, it worked out, and when the numbers in his office weren't good, he would increase the insulin, or my mother would make a phone call. I had terrible convulsions with lows in the night mainly, and I wasn't always sensitive to lows coming on, so that was a problem in my early use. I still don't always recognize them, but with all the equipment we have now for better control, it's easier. I don't wear a sensor because Medicare won't cover it yet. Hopefully that will come through this year. But Dr. Williams said to my parents, when I was 5 years old, that I should be in school. It would be good for me to be in school. And of course, back then it wasn't until you went to first grade, there was no kindergarten in our school. So at the age of 5, I started kindergarten, or excuse me, started in first grade, and graduated in 1956, went on to college and got my degree in 1960, got married in 61, Did a little bit of teaching in that time. And then the kids' babies started coming along, and so I gave up teaching for a while. And things went along pretty smoothly. I had some toxemia problems during pregnancy, but was hospitalized for suddenly with the first baby. And then the second one I was in for 2 weeks before they did a C-section. So I had C-section deliveries. And we didn't know. And I talked to any of these 50 plus years of diabetics having 50 insulin, people having diabetes for 50 years or more. We didn't know where we were unless we had a high and we felt sick, or we had a low and that was a bigger problem. I remember waking up as a child with teeth marks on the edges of my tongue from biting my tongue during that convulsion, the seizure it was. So, and you would feel terrible the next day. But I don't believe that happens today because of all the controls we have. But here I am. I've always been active. I remember children in the childhood, sometimes I wouldn't be able to go do the activities that my friends were going to be doing because it was mealtime for me. And the insulin was not as powerful as it is now. So there was more highs and lows, I think, and that was tough to deal with. Yeah. But I don't remember it being a problem in school. I started early, as I said. I got into activities. I was a cheerleader in high school, which, could have done all kinds of things with your blood glucose. I don't remember having a problem. I was in a marching band from high school, and we paraded in the summertime with the local firemen's troop. And so I've always been active.
Yeah, I mean, you've just said so many things that I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you know this, you may or you may not know this, but you're just talking to you as somebody who takes pride in, advocating about being healthy and living long and pursuing your dreams and chasing your passions with diabetes. And you were just doing that, and nobody else was you didn't probably even know anybody else that had diabetes or anything like that. And you're just how inspiring your story is to me, and I'm sure to everybody out there. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share it with us, because you may not realize just hearing you say these things it gives me so much hope for what is available for the future. Because I mean, even like you said, with the tools we have today, when I was a teenager, I had 3 times where I had lows in my sleep and had the convulsions, the seizure, and things like that. And I think that, even with the amazing technology that we do have today, not everybody does have access to it. Like you said, we're, in the community very aware that Medicare is not covering CGMs. And I know DPAC is doing a lot, trying to bring, bills and getting us out there to take action so that the people who do pass the laws actually know that there's tons of us out here who want to support that bill, because everybody should have a CGM. But for people who are going through things like that, to hear that not only have you gone through that, but you've gone through it more times than anyone should have to. And here you are, happy and healthy and living with diabetes for so long. It's just, I mean, I don't know, not much else warms my heart more than this. So just for you to come on and share this is just amazing. So we talked previously about your medal. Do you want to show that off a little bit? So you said you just got your 75-year medal in the mail. So I'm going to click this on here so you can show that. So tell us a little bit about it.
The Lilly Company, this came from Lilly, and I received it this week on Tuesday. They had my name in their information sheet because they invited me back in, I don't remember the date. They gave a special day for diabetics, and they had my husband and I come to their headquarters. And so I got in touch. I got on the internet because a friend told me they were giving away 75-year medals. And so I got on the internet.
Was that Richard?
Yeah. And so I got on the internet and picked up the form or got on the form and filled it out. And I don't believe they didn't ask me for any proof. Maybe I proved it before to them that I'd had it for 50 years. So I was excited, and actually it's 24 karat gold plated.
Wow.
And it's very nice looking, and the chain happens to be a good length for me.
Perfect.
Oh yes, and I do wear my Jocelyn 50-year medal.
Nice. And so obviously you're very proud of, and living with diabetes, you know the struggles. So, you know, you're proud of what you have accomplished, as well you should be. So let me ask you this. For people, you know, that are living me 25 years, and there are people getting diagnosed all the time, you know, and I always, at the end of the interview, which we're not there yet, I ask for your top 3 tips. But I mean, for you, growing up in a time where there was no blood glucose meter, there was no, you know, pump probably until way down. So what, you just kind of lived your life. Am I putting that too simply, or how would you describe it?
It wasn't as easy as that, but I never, my parents always, unless it was mealtime, they always led me to believe that I could do anything I wanted to do. Dr. Williams Sr., I remember he talking to me about what I wanted to do in the future, and I wanted to be a nurse. And he said, well, let me advise you on that. And he just said the routine, your timing, and the whole thing, he said, isn't very good for diabetics. And so he suggested, I think, and he explained it clearly, that I might have to be with a patient, say, you know, doing something for them at the time I needed to eat, and that wouldn't work out. So I got into teaching instead. But I don't think I ever knew the stories that I might only live till I was 25 years old or something like that. I don't remember hearing that. I read it many years later.
And I think that that's a huge, and I talk about this with a lot of people that I interview, depending on what you're told at your time of diagnosis, I believe that has a huge impact on the course that one's life takes with diabetes. Because for me, I was told horrible things. I was given lots of bad information that I don't believe anymore. I think it was that's just the way the doctors that I was dealing with were equipped. And you obviously had, I mean, you're 2 steps from, you know, Dr. Banting. So obviously you had some amazing care. And you had people that were guiding you and giving you, either they weren't telling you the doom and gloom, or they just, you know, they were giving you information, and your parents were telling you that you could do whatever you want, which is absolutely true. And ends up, you know, how it ended up happening for you. And I think that that's just, it's unbelievable. So for you, did you have, other than the lows, were there things that you struggled with that you feel like as time has gone on, you've gotten a better handle on, or things that, you know, you feel like you have really triumphed over throughout the years?
Well, my blood glucose still goes up and down, and I don't, as I said, I didn't get the pump until I was 70 years old. So I've had it for 8 years. I will be 78 at the end of this year.
And just for those who are curious, what kind of pump do you use?
I use a Medtronic, a 523 now. I tried to get the 5, was it 50 or 56, whatever was better, with the sensor, all part of it. And the pump was okay by the insurance, but not the sensor, so they weren't going to pay for any sensor supplies. But I didn't do it until I saw my grandnephew at a wedding reception, who was diagnosed. I have a niece with diabetes, and her son was diabetes. And at the age of 7, he was using a pump. And I thought, oh, if a child can do that, a 70-year-old can do it. and I always thought the mechanical things can break down. So, and I do not have complications. No one has been able to say you have this because of diabetes. So my genes have been proven through, I'm part of the Jocelyn 50-year medalist study. And that's what they were trying to prove, that genes play a big role in this. So my comments to diabetics that I know and have met is keep the best health you can. If that cure is coming down the road and it's in your lifetime, it was supposed to be in my lifetime, then if you're at the best health you can be, you have a chance of having that cure work for you. So just do the best you can for control. You control it as best you can rather than let diabetes control you. And my parents, it must have been terrible when I was diagnosed. My father had 2 brothers die of diabetes in the 1920s.
Yeah.
I don't know if insulin had been even found by then.
I think it was 1922. So maybe.
One of them died in 22 and one died in 23.
Yeah.
One was 9 years old and one was 6 years old. So they didn't have a chance. But my father, knowing that, and now he has a daughter, 2nd child, diagnosed with it. My mother, he had 4 brothers in World War II service for the U.S. And she had that going on in her life. And I was not an easy baby to begin with. So but I was talking to my sister recently, and neither of us ever heard them define what terrible life, hard it was, nothing like that. And you just looked for the positive as much as you could. And so I have very frustrating days. I have numbers I can't tell you why they came up. And in some cases, the doctors can't either. Mm-hmm. So that's what the disease is like. And you do what you can.
And I think what you just said, it just really is a shining example of the power of a positive attitude. And I know a lot of people nowadays like, oh, you say be positive. And it's, you can't make things change. But the thing is that it's not necessarily even being positive. It's just, for me, it's gratitude, being grateful for the things that you do have versus focusing your energy on the things that you don't have or that you don't like. And it sounds like your parents were very much of that mindset of, hey, obviously your mom had more on her plate than most people would ever want to think about, with the war and her brothers and her kids. But she, like you said, you never heard her talk about what was wrong. She told you, she said, you can do whatever you want with your life. And I just think that in general, for anybody out there, is that we all have so much to be grateful for, that so often when we live with a disease like diabetes, it's easy to have those things that we are grateful for be shadowed by the tedious work that it does take to have decent control over your diabetes actions and choices. But just having that, taking the time each day to say, oh, I'm so grateful for, people sometimes say, I don't have anything to be grateful for, but it's like, do you have clean water? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have clothes on your back? These are things that we just take for granted. And back in the 1940s, these are things that I'm sure people took for granted less often. And I just think that more of that mindset would serve all of us as humanity, but particularly those of us living with a chronic disease like diabetes, when we are kind of at the end of our rope and saying, oh, this is so terrible. But in reality, we have a lot to be thankful for. And I think that's important. And just hearing you talk really kind of brings that home.
And I think also I've had hospital experiences. I've been in there. I've broken bones. I fortunately have, ever since the sore that took me to the doctors in 1941, I heal easily and heal well. So that's not a problem for me in general. But when I go to doctor's offices and have tests for whatever reasons, I do speak up, because sometimes the doctor won't want you to wear the pump. Well, why not? This is why I need to. This is why I want to. And you end up being able to do it because it's okay. I don't know about other people or other hospitals, but I think I've had good care from my doctors, especially. And yes, I'm positive. I don't look at the bad side of things. I want to see. I've had experiences as a diabetic going on a car trip with my husband one time. And it was a place we had been to before, but we were looking at the map. And mine always was, well, when are we stopping for lunch? And this was a few years ago. And so we planned on a stop. So it wasn't back when I packed at lunch and this kind of stuff. Well, the restaurant had gone out of business. And then we had quite a number of miles, so now I have something on me personally. I have it in the car. I probably have sugar packets. This is what I use for bringing up a low, ones that you can get free in a store or in a restaurant and that. I know that each one is 4 carbs. I learned to count carbs when I went into Dr. William Jr.'s home glucose monitoring program. And that was until 1978 when I got my first home glucose monitoring machine, which cost $500. It was made in Germany, and no insurance companies were covering anything to do with that. The Ames company had loaned them to Dr. Williams for a small group. I was one of 8 people as diabetics, various ages, that went into a learning program with him. And after a few weeks, and I graduated from the program, he hired me to work part-time with him. So I was up on the latest things. But getting that home glucose monitoring machine was a big change in my life. And that wasn't until 78. And I'd had diabetes a long time.
Right. So, so the 3 things I just picked up from what you said are: 1, advocate for yourself as a doctor. Don't be quiet. Say what you need to say. If you feel, because I am a huge proponent of this as well. We are our own best caregivers. Our doctors can guide us and help us and give us guidelines, but day to day, it's up to us to figure out what works best for us. So you're saying talk to your doctor and don't be quiet when you feel like you have to say something. And B, I heard you say be prepared, have the sugar packets with you. And the way that the world is today, you could grab a whole bunch of sugar packets anywhere you go. Honey packets are available at convenience stores for tea. There's no excuse to not have these things in your purse, in your pocket. And I'm always talking about that as well. And educating yourself. I mean, obviously you were very lucky to be part of this kind of cutting edge for the time group of diabetes education. But you continue to obviously educate yourself. And the more you know, the more knowledge you have, the more awareness you have to each situation. And when you have more knowledge and awareness, that's going to change your actions because you have more knowledge and awareness, and you're probably going to make a better choice than without the education. Than all fantastic pieces of advice. Another question I have for you, and this is out of curiosity, how did you get involved in the diabetes online community? Because I obviously was recommended to interview you by Richard Vaughn, who many of us know and respect and admire. How did you get involved in the online community? When did that happen?
It was through Jocelyn's girls that worked at Jocelyn put up a Facebook page for the 50-year medalists, and we were all notified and did we want to join it. So that was the first time I ever was on Facebook. I had chosen not to be on it, and I'm not on it other than that, unless it's a particular person. But so I joined with that and got to know Richard through the Facebook. I have been back and forth to Jocelyn other than the research, and I plan on going back this year to get their 75-year medal. And next year, every 2 years now, the group that was part of the research project get invited back for programs and that. And so since my one son lives in the Albany area now, it's easy to stay overnight there and go in and out in one day. So it's easy for us. But that's how I got on. And then Richard told me, and I saw the program that you did with him. And so we talked on Facebook. And in fact, I called him this morning and said, okay, tell me more. But hopefully we will meet in person when we're down there next year. So it'll be interesting. That's how I came upon you, and that's why I ordered your book through the library.
I can't tell you how heartwarming that is to hear that you read my book. I mean, I know people read it, but to hear that somebody, like for me, like I would look to you as a person for advice, for you to read my book, that's just amazing. Thank you for doing that. And so yeah, I think when you and Richard meet, I mean, that would be like the dynamic duo of diabetes longevity. Just you guys together in the same room, just be overwhelming. I think it would be amazing. So another question, and these are questions that I often get from people to ask to interviewees, and I think you might be probably one of the best people to ask, what do you eat? People always want to know what other people eat. So what is a typical day? Obviously, you said you learned to count carbs very young. So how do you choose your food now?
I stay away from desserts. Generally, I don't make them in our house. My husband has ice cream to fill it on, or cookies. I can have them in the house and not demand eating them. But I also try them once in a while, or I figure carbs per meal. And it's a lot of fruit and vegetables, not a lot of fatty meat. I know that the whole grain spaghetti now that is out in boxes does not make my blood glucose rise quickly like the white does, and I like spaghetti. So I will have a portion of that, so I'm looking into ingredients before I buy it. Neither one of us are at an age that we should be eating real salty food, so I watch salty stuff out. Normally when I go out for a dinner, I do not order dessert, nor does my husband. So we somewhat limit ourselves on that. But if I want another ear of good New York State grown corn on the cob, which is starchy, I may take a little more insulin for such stuff.
There you go. Perfect. And you said you were always active. Are you still active now?
Yes, I'm still I'm in-home hospice volunteer for our Livingston County, the county I live in. Next year I will have done that for 25 years.
Wow.
So I'm called when there's a case in the mileage that I will cover and go in. We give at least 4 hours a week on a particular recipient of our care. And I volunteer. I am a Eucharistic minister for our church, so I visit people that are shut-ins and take the Eucharist to them. I'm just available to do other things. go down and volunteer. My husband does too now. RIT is a college campus in Rochester, New York. The JDRF has a big walk-a-thon fundraiser once a year, and we volunteer at that. I've also volunteered at a diabetic youth camp, which is near us in the summertime. You just go and be present and talk to the kids or the adults, whatever is needed, or they ask questions sometimes. And I'm available. I go to support groups. A friend of mine wanted to start up one right where we live, so we tried that, but we found out that, and both of us were type 1s, but the majority of people coming, and it was a very small group, were type 2s. And I wasn't too comfortable with that. So eventually he was out of a job and eventually got a job and started working full time. So that came to an end. But I'm active, yes.
Well, thank you for all the things that you do. Yeah, I mean, the service you give to the diabetes community is obviously very valuable, and people need that. And so do you do any physical activity for your blood sugars now? Do you take walks or do anything like that? So what's your kind of exercise routine?
In walking distance from my home, and it's right around the couple blocks up, there's an exercise center. So my husband and I are there 2 days a week. This morning was one I didn't go to, a directed exercise. And I walk for exercise. And I don't walk as long as mileage, as many miles as I did before. I have slowed down on that. I have bone problems in my feet, not diabetic. But once in a while, one of those will get, it's a genetic thing that passed on to me from my mother. But I do exercise.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to pick out all the things that people are going to want to know, because you're just a wealth of information, and I appreciate you sharing all of this with us. So we covered your nutrition and your exercise, and obviously you're very active. Giving back, I'm always a big, supporter of giving back to the community, whatever you're passionate about. Obviously, I'm passionate about giving back to the diabetes community, as are you. But the thing is that it just enriches your heart and your soul, and it makes you happy. Even when you're not happy, if you can serve someone else, I think that just is the ultimate, kind of bringer of joy for everyone. So obviously you're living proof of that as well. Do you have anything coming up in the future that you're doing? Obviously you're going to go to Jocelyn and get your 75-year medal. Do you have any other, are you doing anything with summer camps this summer coming up, or any other projects that you're working on?
I will be at the summer camp, registration day, usually it is, and then they have a dinner at the end of the program. And I have a friend, Louise Jesser, who is also a longtime diabetic, and I met her at Jocelyn one day when the group got together, and she doesn't live far from me. So we go to the diabetic camp, and she and her husband do a lot of walkathons and fundraising things. So the JDRF will be coming up in another few weeks, and we'll be part of that too. But other than that, I haven't planned further than August, when I'm getting my medal at Jocelyn.
Nice. Well, that's a good, nice full summer thing to do. Now, you said you have a friend that lives close by with diabetes. Do you talk to other people that live with diabetes on a regular basis?
Well, I have a friend here in town that's had it 30 years, I think. And we talk and know each other I know his parents too. And so, no, generally I'm not, although I'm on the Facebook thing every day, Jocelyn one. So I'm checking things out on that. And Medtronics has a Facebook for pumpers.
Yep.
And so I get into that. And sometimes when you wake up and there's 59 messages there, you don't get back individually to them. No, I don't. I'm not talking to diabetics every day. No.
But you are involved. You do check the Facebook, and obviously, if you got 59 messages. Obviously, you're a bit of a Facebook celebrity there, so people want to talk to you. That's great. I know. I just find that when you communicate with people, whether it's online or in person, who kind of understand what you're going through, it enriches your life. So obviously, talking to the Jocelyn recipients and the Medtronic pumpers is obviously something that you enjoy as well, which is, I think, is an awesome thing. So, as we normally do when we bring things to an end here, and this, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say, but everybody says different things. What are Judith's top 3 tips for thriving with diabetes? And these are the things that work best for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything special, but if you were just going to say, these are my top 3 tips, what would they be?
Well, for one thing, admit to yourself and be sure that people around you know you have diabetes. I have always done that. I taught first grade. I told my first grade children in school, I have diabetes. Do you know of anybody? And then I would say, sometimes I need to drink juice and I will not be able to share it with you. And they understood that. And I had a girl in one of my classes one year stand up and say, Mrs. Ball, you need to drink your juice.
Oh.
And I made, if I don't talk right, if I gave them examples of what I might do. And she was right. And I praised her highly for that. So you never know how it's going to help you. I was amazed that a first grade child would do that. I've always told people, and people have had to help me out. I don't always recognize that I'm getting a low coming on until I'm in trouble. So that's the first thing, I think, to admit it, let people know, don't hide it. It's not terrible to have a disease such as this. You can live with it, as you know I have. Not everybody goes through life with diabetes without complications, but do your best in controlling it. If it's not working today, get up tomorrow. Thank God you're up tomorrow, and try to do a better day. Let yesterday go if it wasn't a good day. Forget about it and do a better job today. And with that, I'm hopeful that the newer machines coming out, the cure is still out there, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes, and we certainly have better insulins now. There's so many technical and equipment things to help us out. Use them wisely and get through it. I have had cataract surgery. I've had C-sections twice for children. I've had lots of surgeries in my life. But somehow I'm here today to enjoy it and to say good luck to you. And it isn't even luck. It's good work, and have a better day tomorrow. Better days are coming for all diabetics, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. I couldn't agree with you more. Be vocal, don't hide it, accept the help that we need. I always say that we all need help. Admitting that we need help, that's true strength. I will say that over and over again. People see needing help as a weakness. I see asking for the help that we need as the truest form of strength that there is, and just do your best, let go of the things that didn't work, focus on the things that you want to keep working on and making progress on. I couldn't have said it better myself. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up? I feel like that you just probably are just full of a wealth of knowledge that I could sit here for hours and hours and still not get enough from you. But is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Well, yes, I have thank yous to give.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly to God, that He's extended my life beyond what anybody thought I would have. And to my parents, certainly, to my husband and our sons and their wives and our grandchildren. Just to people in general, thank you for your help, and it's helped me to be here today. And we should be pleased when it happens.
I totally agree, and I love your gratitude towards everybody in your life that has helped you. And I just can't thank you enough for taking the time to join me today to talk. And I can't wait to share this interview with the community, because I just know that people are going to get so much hope and inspiration out of it. And I admire you greatly for your accomplishments living with diabetes for as many years as you have. And, maybe we'll do a follow-up interview when you get your 80-year medal.
Thank you. I would hope to stay in touch with you too.
Absolutely. Definitely. All right, great. Well, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. And thank you for tuning in. And I will see everybody on the next episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Take care, guys.